Hello and welcome to the Outcast. I'm your host HC, and with me is.
Wolf.
And today we are here to talk about: is this isekai? Am I saying it wrong?
No, it's
Is this
Isekai.
the
You got it
genre?
right. You did perfectly fine. You are good.
Okay, so we are here to talk about one of the latest isekai anime. I know that the manga has been around for a while, but I guess full disclosure, I never read the manga or anything related to this. I newcomer completely, but we're talking about I Am in Love with the Villainess, which, right off the bat, I have to say, best name for everything ever.
Oh, I should introduce you to the lovely world of Isekai names. They are wild.
And even, I get you, but here's the thing. My experience with this before the anime came out was actually last year ish. I was looking for a gift for a friend of mine for her birthday. And then I just saw the first volume of the manga just sitting there on the shelf, and
Mhm.
like I saw, I'm in love with the villainess, and like, okay, manga already like one out of three. The name, I'm in love with the villainess, so there's enemies to lovers trope. That's two out of three, and it's two lesbians. It's three out of three. This was a sure gift for the friend, and as far as I'm aware, she loved it when I gifted it to her. She never gave me any sort of feedback, but I'm taking that. I so far my history with this is actually positive.
Can I can I just I have to do this as an aside sort of thing. I have to read off a few isekai titles to you or just fantasy titles for anime in general of late.
For the sake of moving on, give me the top three, and we.
Oh, that's hard to do, but I'll just read off like one of the more recent ones. Villainess level 99. I may be the hidden boss, but I'm not the demon lord. That is an isekai.
Fuck.
I love like, and then I don't think this one's an isekai, but it is a fantasy anime. Seventh time loop. The villainess enjoys a carefree life, married to her worst enemy. And then
Well, talk about spoiling the thing.
they're either very literal with their titles, and that might just be translation, from Japanese and everything as well. But also, like, some of them are so long. Like this one's not. This one's also fantasy, but it's not isekai, if I'm not mistaken. But fuck me, the titles that they're starting to get with this thing. The strongest tanks, Labyrinth Raids. A tank with a rare 9,999 resistance skill got kicked from the hero's party.
They're trolling by this point. What?
I
Like,
swear I think they are too. I agree. It's so.
like
I
because
love
okay,
it
because
though.
you know what? I'm in love with the villainess. You can say that it's long, but at the very least, like it's not. What was it? I think I'm the final boss, but I'm not sure. But my experience says so. What the fuck was that title?
I love it though.
You know what? You know what? Let's just rebrand this podcast to two dudes talking about anime and then other
Talking about
things. And
anime
sometimes there are
titles.
dragons, but we're not sure.
Just anime titles. That's all we're talking about. Just anime titles at this point.
Well,
The wonderful world of
hey.
fantasy anime and fantasy anime titles is just mwah, it is beautiful. I love it. It is silly. I
Anyway,
have to assume they're having fun.
back to this anime that we're talking about. So what's up with you in terms of experience with this before the you
Before watching
know
the show, I had no experience with this. This was completely under my radar, and I was like very much, there's a few like I think the thing that kind of started to popularize this idea a little bit was what was it? There was a name of a show that came out a little while back, like well before this one. Can I find it real quick? Let's see.
while
My next
Wolf
life as a
is looking.
My next life as a villainess was one that came out and did pretty well. Right? It had like
Mhm.
it was just a fun show, very kind of slice of lifey, and followed a female lead. There was no female romance in this one, mostly. There kind of is, but
Hmm.
there also kind of isn't. So, but yeah, like
Okay.
it was fun and it was silly, and then I think that kind of sparked this like, oh, people like Villainess thing, so we'll just kind of run with that. And I'll admit, I've enjoyed a few of them, and I've enjoyed like one or two of them here or there. And this one came up on the radar, and I was like, you know what? I'll give this one a shot. It probably won't be anything to like write home about. It won't be anything amazing, but maybe I'll have some fun with it as a little bit of, background watching, right? And this
Hmm.
one kind of caught me by surprise. I didn't think it would be as good as it was. And I didn't think it would hit some notes that it did hit.
So we're talking about this one, the
Yeah,
anime.
I'm in love with the Villainess. Yeah, the anime.
Yeah. I wanted to love this so fucking much because of the title. And I've heard so many people say that it's good and it's great. And what kind of show have you guys been seeing? And like, for the record, if you enjoy this show, by all means, enjoy it. I'm not calling you out, but I'm sorry. This was one of the most painful watches I had to do for this podcast. And we did Nine Realms. Okay, it's not as bad as that, but
Nothing is as bad as Nine
God.
Realms.
Hmm?
Nothing is as bad as Nine Realms.
I mean, I'm sure there was probably something that's worse that we covered, but like,
Probably.
uh, but like, there was like, I'll be honest with you, I probably said this once, and I'm not sure where, but I'll say this: the worst thing any piece of media can be for me is boring, and this bored me.
Mm.
It's not even that long of it's not even that long of an anime. Like this we are talking about. We live in a world like we did like the golf anime that was like 26. This is only 12 episodes, and it felt like forever. Like think I got sick of it by episode 2. It was just there are glimmers of a good idea here. There are glimmers of something that this can work. I can see why people will like this. There are
Hmm.
things that work, but for everything that works, there are like three things that don't.
That's fair. Again, I was very curious how you would feel of this one because I felt like a part of me kind of felt like this may not be a show you would enjoy, but a part of me also felt like this has some moments in it that I think would really work for you or catch you, and make you interested. So I was curious to see how you would feel about this one.
I'm sorry to say I don't get it.
And that's fair. Not everything's for everyone, right? This one caught me because I think it helps that I have watched a good amount of anime in the past of many varying
Uh,
genres of anime. I've seen a lot,
Maybe.
but for me, this one does something that, especially in episode 3, I've never seen any other anime do this, right? And I won't say too much on it yet since we're not in spoilers, but
But I think what none else non-spoiler can we really talk about with this? I think might as well just jump right into this.
it's good. Go watch it. Despite what HC says.
Uh, I say, I say, if you value, like, listen, I really think give it a shot, and if you don't, if you feel like, I'll say this: if you've seen the first episode and you think this is like maybe there's potential for this but it's not for me, then the rest of the show ain't going to change your mind. So give it the
That's
first
fair.
episode and see what you think. I wasn't impressed, but I tried to push on because there's a podcast to do, so I tried.
I would say,
But
at the very least, it's really good background watching, right? I think personally. Like, I don't think it's. There are
but
better
that's the
shows
thing
out
with
there.
background watching. If I'm not going to pay any attention to it, then what's the point?
Fair. Like, background watching for me, I think, is a slightly different thing than what some people do, right? But absolutely fair if you're not, like, willing to pay, give it your attention and stuff like that. Maybe it's not for you. Maybe you're not going to enjoy it, but which is fair. Again, I
That
enjoyed it
being
at the very
said,
least. But yeah.
Mhm.
Moving on.
That being said, we're gonna start talking about spoilers. So if you haven't seen the show and you don't want anything spoiled, this is your chance to close the video, go watch the show, and then come back.
Mhm.
So starting in 3, 2, 1. Still here? Okay, so what is that one thing? Which
So
I think I already know what it is, but
episode 3, and
Mhm.
it's just I so the thing about anime, right? If you've never noticed, and you probably have, if you've seen even a small amount of anime, whenever anime, and it's gotten better about this of late, like, slow march of time, everything will get better about doing stuff like this eventually, but we're just baby steps, unfortunately, very small steps. But anime
Mhm.
tends to, whenever it does same sex relationships, it never focuses on the gender. It's very person centric, if you've ever noticed that, right? Like, oh, I love this person. I don't love, you know, this gender, right? Like, oh, like whenever anime does like gay relationships or lesbian relationships, it's very much focused on, oh, this
Like
girl
I
loves this
think
girl as a person, right? Like the person she loves. She doesn't love girls, she just loves this person. And it's super focused in that regard, right?
I think like a point of comparison is another anime we talked about, which was Blooming to You, where
Mm.
the you could argue that the main character wasn't necessarily a lesbian, but she was asexual.
Yeah.
Or like there's though you could argue that one of them is lesbian, but
But even
depends.
even
But
for that
I get
show,
what you
right?
mean.
It's very person centric, right? Like it's
Mhm.
not like it's better about it, I would say, and it dives into it a bit more, but it still stays, at least at first, a little bit more person centric than it does like gender centric, if that makes sense.
Mhm.
But this one does something interesting where no, they just have a candid conversation in an anime of all things, which is kind of shocking. Not the candid conversation part, but the fact that they're willing to just talk about, no, Ray, the one of the main characters in the show, is gay. She is a lesbian and she does love girls. And I kind of, for me, that was very shocking because you don't see anime do that very often. Just have a candid conversation about same sex relationships in its show. But much more
Mhm.
importantly, it was that was the episode that kind of hooked me in, because you have her talk about that, and then you also have her at the same time kind of like to herself in her own mind, kind of distancing from that, because she doesn't want to have her heart broken, right? And she doesn't want to, you know,
And you can also tell that she did have her heart broken
yes,
before.
yes, like she has opened up to someone, another girl in the past, and it just went horribly wrong. And she doesn't want to have that happen again. She doesn't want to lose the closeness that she has with Claire at that point in the show. And so she would rather just say, "Oh no, I just love Claire. I don't actually, not actually fully gay, even though it's weird how they talk about it, but it makes sense."
I'll tell you
I'm probably
what,
being bad at it.
Mhm. Like I tell you what, this was actually a point of the show where I was like, I was interested, I was listening, and I thought it was
Yeah,
a
because
really
I
good
think
way
it's a
to
really good
describe,
thing.
because again, as a white straight man, right?
Mm,
I'm not
mm,
in this world, but there's always seemed like, at least in my group of friends, like whenever there was, because I a lot of like a lot of two of my best friends are bisexuals, and I know I'm also friends with some lesbians, some gay people.
mhm.
So and the one thing that a lot of people kind of seem to assume, and like it annoys them, and it also really annoys me to some degree, that just because you are bi or gay or a lesbian, then people think that you find every person under that under that label attractive, and it's like,
Mm,
no.
yeah,
If we as straight people can say that there is a girl that we think is ugly or not attractive, then it applies to gay people seeing this about men. It's applied to lesbian girls thinking that about some girls. Just because you're attracted to this particular gender doesn't mean you are automatically want to fuck every person under that gender.
yeah.
That So it was interesting to see a show actually talk about it, and explain it in such a way that obviously, the the thick-skinned assholes are probably not going are not going to give a shit about this. They're still going to say it that way, but it's nice to see an attempt. And this was a point where I actually wanted to give the show some credit. It does that well,
Mhm.
and there's also a moment like later on in the show. Remind me of the villainess's name.
Claire.
Claire. That we're gonna see Claire's backstory, where at least on the night when she was very young and her mom had to leave her,
Mhm.
and this is also kind of talking about abandonment issues or like some parental troubles and stuff. And I'm like, this is interesting. These are things that suddenly there are scenes when I'm like, there's a glimpse of something good here. There are glimpses of a show that I would recommend everyone to watch and learn from. But these are like two moments in a whole other pile of who gives a shit that overstays its welcome and is not, and it tries to make you laugh while also but with the same joke over and over again. And
I think I'm understanding. Slice of life is not for you.
here's the thing, I'm okay with slice of life.
You
There
think
are
so?
a lot of slice of life stuff that I like, but okay, you know what? If we're gonna talk about this, here's one thing that gonna bother me.
Mhm.
Because you said episode 3, there's the great scene where it's Ray, right?
Yeah,
That's the main character's name.
yeah, Ray. Yeah, that discussion with
Yeah.
Ray and Claire and everything. Yeah, it's great.
Mhm. Yeah, so she gives this really good spiel about what it's like being a lesbian, and that's actually interesting and a good way to put it out there. But then she also said something that like hey, it might suck for me. It might suck for me that the person I like doesn't like me back, and it happened before. But if I'm not going to make them happy, then I at least want them to be happy because I still love them. And it's like, okay, that's actually a good thing. Again, one of those rare glimpses of there's a good thing to learn here because we probably all had this like one crush that we were kind of hanging on, even though we knew that it wasn't going to happen. Maybe there were other things that we were clinging on to, but it wasn't worth
Well,
keeping.
I also
Eh,
like that the show, even for that too, right? The show does, as it goes on, very later on, like close to the end, does say like,
mhm.
that's kind of also a bad thing too. Like, you need to just be forward and admit, like, hey, you know, I do like you. I am interested in you. Are you the same way? Yes or no? And then you can both move on, right? Like, because you do
Yeah,
need that.
and
I do like that the show
And
does that too.
again, that's another thing, because again, sometimes it's okay to just be up with it, and you get a no, but it's okay. You can process this, move on. But what bothers me about is that the show doesn't listen to its own fucking advice because the entire thing is still Ray simping so fucking hard for Claire, and Claire tells her, "Get the fuck away from me! I hate you." But the bitch doesn't relent, and she's fucking creepy.
Yeah, that's the
And I get it.
the
That's the
joke.
joke.
Yeah,
I that's the but okay. First
but
episode,
I fully
fine. That's
understand
the
if you're not here for 12 episodes of that joke,
mhm.
you're not gonna enjoy it. It's not for you. I get it.
Yeah,
I fully
and
get it and understand.
yeah, and I think this is kind of a thing that I guess it's probably up for the individual. Like, how much can you handle this one joke? Because okay, you know what?
I think that's
You said
also
slice of life. You said slice of life. Let's talk about something. Let's talk about a show that it's not. I'm going to say similar in terms of its slice of life, and there's also this thing. Okay,
mhm,
this thing of like crashing on a person and in a very dysfunctional relationship. Let's go with that.
yeah.
Let's talk about Hey Arnold. Remember that show?
Wow. Yeah. I guess that is too, huh? Thinking about it right quick.
Slice of life in terms of it's just following this kid in his neighborhood, trying to basically help people, every person that he can. Sometimes he manages, sometimes he's not, but and then like the joke with the other main character Helga is that she has a crush on Arnold, but she doesn't want him to find out, so she constantly bullies him and then goes to the side and then goes to the side to like lament on, oh, I actually love him as much as I hate him, but I love him, but I hate him. And then there's also there's always this creep who like creeps up on her and she beats him up. I'm in love with the Villainess is basically if you take that creep and Helga and made an entire show out of it. Hope you like that joke because that's what you get.
I think this also it also might be a cultural thing because anime loves to do that. There are many anime out there that are quite essentially one joke that they just take for the next 12 episodes, right? Like, or considering some manga and light novels for far, far longer. And it's basically just how many times can we tell the same joke but put a new spin on it? And a lot of the times you're either into that and you're enjoying it, or the joke has fallen flat many, many episodes ago, and you're just kind of like, ugh. And I fully get it, and I fully understand. And I think
So
for me, this
because
is
we
one
were
of those
walking in
times where the
season
joke didn't
one.
fall flat for me, right? Like it continued to work, or it just kind of became background for me. And I was far more interested in some of the other things the show had going on, like the conversation in episode 3, like what they do for episode 11 and 12, and a little bit of 10 with
But that's the thing though, that the other thing that kind of bothers me is that okay, you know what, you're gonna tell this joke for 12 episodes, maybe it's a personal thing for me, but fine, whatever, let's. But then we also get to the point where we get to know Claire a bit more, we see her backstory and everything, but Ray is so fucking weird for me because it's implied that she works at an office and then she goes home and plays this dating sim.
Yeah.
I mean, all right, we all have our games that we like to play after work. I'm not judging.
She died
But
and
then
got
she wakes up.
reincarnated in this world. Yeah.
Yeah, and then suddenly she's reincarnated into this world
There's the
of the
isekai
game.
part of the isekai that doesn't actually matter at all. It's
Yeah,
like
and
mentioned
that's
once.
the thing. What is the point of making her a human that got transported into the game? It doesn't play into anything. It's just a plot point that exists for the sake of a plot point. Like if you remove
You have to understand, HC. Isekai is really popular. So popular.
Well,
in
then
fact.
do it good. I don't care. Just
No,
because it's
HC.
popular doesn't mean it's
No.
good.
No. For mini isekai, we just, hey, here's a little, oh yeah, this is an isekai. All right, we move on now. There is no, there is no like really focusing on it or anything of that nature. We just, here's a brief mention of the fact that, hey, this is an isekai. You didn't know that, did you? Well, you know now. Moving on though. We're not going to address that. We're not going to do anything with that. This one does better about it in using her knowledge.
This is the better. Oh God, what's the worst?
All right. When I say better, that doesn't mean it's good. That means it's doing better than some, because some, I have watched one where this is an isekai, because the character just says they are reincarnated at some point to someone, and then it's never brought up ever again. And it's like, if you take that scene away, you're missing nothing. Nothing changes at all.
I think this kind of pisses me off more because, again, I like comparing it. I know that I'm comparing this to.
Right? I will say, like, it uses Ray's knowledge of the game to, do things, but
that's another thing that I feel like, okay, that's interesting. She knows the game well, so it actually kind of helps her through. But what she knows, what she knows doesn't really seem to have that much of an impact on the plot.
At the very least, like, I thought it was clever of them. Like, it's kind of a throw-off line, but it was at least clever of them to say, like, even, I think it's close to the beginning, basically a thing of, like, she's trying not to use her knowledge all that much, right? So that way she can, like, avoid getting a whole lot of attention on herself, essentially, is the idea. Which I get, but I will admit I have seen other shows do that and do it much better, really, essentially.
I tell you what, I think, and again, I know I'm comparing this to another like American show, and maybe there's just a difference, but when again, God bless my fiance that she listens to all of the things I have to go through for this, but like she was asking because she was like, "How is it? What is it?" So I basically told her imagine, let me just see this here because I want to.
Listen, I
I want to
love
make sure that
taking you
I'm.
through the different journey of different little animes just to see what you think.
Mm, Okay,
It's
okay.
so
Here it
much
is. Here
fun
it
for
is.
me.
So my my comparison to this was basically this is like Owl House with Nozaki-kun levels of crazy, and Anya and some Anya from Spy Family.
Not bad. That's pretty good. That's pretty
Mm,
good, I would say.
Yeah,
I like
and
the
that's the
show, and I
thing.
would still say that's pretty good.
So yeah, so here's the thing though, that when you have shows like comparing it to that, Nozaki-kun. I also said that at some point, like it can be too much, like to binge. Like you probably need a break between episodes.
Mm.
But at the same time, the joke, even if the premise of the show was comedically similar, there were enough jokes within it to at least keep things fresh to some degree. Like,
It varied up its jokes, and
yeah,
yeah, it did play that kind of one joke quite often, but it threw other jokes in on top of that, and it still tried to vary up the jokes that it played as well.
mhm. And then there's also, Owl House. Like a quirky girl, escapes her world of realism and goes and transports into a different world where she falls in love with a kind of a snotty girl who ends up loving her back. Sounds familiar?
No, not at all.
Oh, they also learn magic in the school.
No, not at all. Completely different, HC. I don't know how you could see these things as similar.
Simple, because it's the same, only not as good. And Owl House actually uses the isekai part. And why is Owl House a better isekai anime than the actual isekai anime?
No comment.
Of course. First he tells me, you're not saying this. And then when I bring this up, he's like, oh, no comment. I can do this. No.
No, I get you, right? For me, one, I have fully admitted. I think I've admitted to this before, but I will continue to admit to it. I love my trash. All right, and
Hey, fair enough.
isekai is the trash of anime at the moment. Like, and you know what? I don't think this one is trash, but it's not. You know, there are many better. Like, I will fully admit there are many better shows out there you could watch. I'm fully mostly interested in this one because it does a few things that I think are really interesting and really good, and I would love to see more of it to see if it really takes those ideas and runs with them later on, right? Because
And again, I just want to point out, if this is your kind of trash and you enjoy it, like, by all means
hi,
enjoy it. I want to say to say this again, just because I have problems with it. By all means, if you love this legitimately or you love it because it's your trash, I'm not judging. I'm just saying where I'm coming from. And for the record, I'm a person who was dragged to see Morbius in theaters. I have all the shame in the world. Okay, judge me as much as I'm not judging.
he
Okay,
likes
I have
Sonic,
no right.
ladies and gentlemen.
Mm,
That should tell you all you
What?
need to know.
What did you say?
I said he likes Sonic, ladies and gentlemen. That should tell you all you need to know.
On the one hand, I want to kill you, but on the other hand, I agree. So, yeah,
It's
Sonic
it's
fan.
rude, but it's not
I
untrue.
went through my fair share of shit. So yeah,
No, fair.
I'm.
Sonic's been down in those trenches once or twice. If you're a Sonic fan, like you're aware. You don't want to be,
Yeah,
but
no.
you're aware.
Yeah. Like, listen. Here's the thing. It's not that Sonic hasn't been in the trenches. The debate is more. What part of his career do you think the trench is? That's the problem.
Yeah, but
But
Sonic
this
has
is a
also had
debate.
its high
This is
points.
a
But
this is a
anyways,
debate for another time. This
I
is a
give
debate for
shit,
another
but
day.
even I will admit Sonic has had its high points. Absolutely, 100%.
And they had more high points than people would like to believe, but they're idiots and won't acknowledge it. Did you hear something? Anyway, back to the show. So I've been too much of a negative Nancy. Please, what else do you like? I want to
I
hear
mean,
more. What do you like?
Well, I mean, number one, like I said, right? I love the conversation episode 3. I love as we get near the end, right? The show does kind of go on this little bit of a mini arc where it's Ray versus another character, and this character is kind of helping her try to, realize her feelings for Claire and actually declare them and actually,
By the by,
help get
actually,
them
might as well
together.
just. I want to make sure I got this right.
Hmm.
Is the final rival for Ray in the show Claire's sister, or did I misunderstood?
Uh, they're not like blood sisters, like they're not like related by any means, but she just
Hmm.
calls her that essentially
Okay, because
because she's
listen,
like
because I was like,
because they're
I thought
really
like, am I
close.
missing something? We have incest in this? Like it's anime, I
I
thought they
mean,
had some, but like,
there was incest in this HC. Do you remember the two characters in the middle of
all
it
right, right.
that are
Maybe I
in
was
love and
ready enough.
are brother and sister?
Yeah, I mean, I don't judge, but I do. I don't know. Wolf, you there?
No, I'm here, just dying.
Oh, you better get that checked out. So,
it's it's a wild show. I'm gonna be real, right? And I've heard the light novel, I think it is better, but this is fairly one to one from what I understand, barring a few
for
little
the
things here or
record,
there.
what do you mean by light novel? Like, is there another print of the manga or
Or
something
manga or
else?
something like that. I don't know if it when I say light novel, I don't know if it started as a novel or if it started as a manga. I'm not entirely sure. I think it's one of the two that it started as. I don't remember which right off the top of
Okay,
my head.
because no, because this is interesting that you say that because like if that's okay, because I've seen some videos in preparation for this just to kind of see what the general concern, and most of the positive things I've seen for about this come from people who read the manga and not necessarily watch the anime, which makes and for what I've seen, I think the anime did a lot of cuts which could have made it better.
I don't have enough familiarity with the manga. I've read a little bit of it. So yeah, it started as a light novel series, got a manga adaptation, and then got an anime adaptation. And I think the anime mostly pulls from the light novel, if I'm not mistaken, with the
Mhm.
cute things that it changes here or there.
Okay, and again, for the record, if it adapted that or that, how loyal is it as an adaptation? I don't know. I'm judging this based on what I saw, and I think though that from what I've heard, some stuff that were changed or cut would have made the show better if they kept them in there. But that's just me.
Which is entirely possible. No denying that.
So, what else is there to talk about?
We
You're
gotta
the
come up
fan
with
of the
something.
show.
We gotta come up with something. We gotta. I
You're the fan of the
honestly,
show. Then give me something. Give me something. Then you.
that's hard because there's not a ton to talk about with the show since you don't like.
Well, here's the thing, though, that I think though this is kind of coming up to it because again, they're in this magic school, which all right, again like a Harry Potter, Hull House, that kind of stuff. All
Mhm.
right, I'm not going to. But then they do this avatar thing, which every person has his own element. Besides some people that can bend two elements, and it's like, so which one is it? Is it one or two? And that's something that I
Well, that's
didn't
the thing,
really
right?
get. But I guess
You're if you can basically use more than two elements for magic, right? You're special, and Ray's one of those special people who can use more than one element of magic. And then we meet another person close to the end who can use three elements of magic because she's really special. And I'll be real with you, all of the villainous anime kind of do this. They all are set in a magic school, every single
I'm
one of them,
noticing. Yeah,
and
I'm
they all
noticing.
have the main character who can use who is either really good at magic or is really bad at magic, right?
And that's the thing that Ray seems to be like really good at magic. Like she say, if to the point that she's also kind of messing up on purpose.
Well, yeah,
That
she
was a
is.
thing.
Yeah, she does because
Um,
again, she's trying not to draw attention to herself essentially. because she
which
doesn't want
doesn't
to.
really work because everyone kind of knows her afterwards, and also
Yeah.
bad way to not draw attention to yourself when you're applying to be the maid of the girl you're crashing on, and you manage to get the job by selling her dad the knowledge, I guess.
Yeah, basically.
This show is fucking creepy. I can't. Like, I can't. And I get that's the joke, but how much can you take it that that Claire literally steps on her with her shoes and she goes, "Ha ha, Miss Claire, step on me harder." Like, how can you? 12 episodes of this. I can't. I
Mm-hmm.
can't. Like maybe to some people it's funny, but at some point it just becomes creepy.
It's also worth noting, right, that these shows and like manga, light novels, all that are also pulling from, I believe, like an actual, I forget, I think it's Otome games over there, but it's basically just visual novels. Is what we would know
Yeah.
them as, that are
Yes.
pretty much like this as well, to a T,
Hmm.
but maybe worse in some regards in terms of what they're doing. But this, like, it's pulling from that and turning it into a show and kind of making fun of it at the same time and doing other things as well. So there's a lot of layers to this, right? In terms of the jokes that they're doing. And if you're not familiar, I feel, with all of it, I completely understand. It's probably not going to be as enjoyable, right? And even for me, like,
Well,
I'm not super familiar with visual novels. That's not a, like, I know of them, I know they exist, but I've never really messed with them. So there's probably a lot of jokes here that go over my head as well, because I have no clue. I have no frame of reference for any of it, right?
and I think if the show is gonna over reliant on it, then what? Let's assume like if you're aiming this towards people who like who see a lot of anime, then you know what? Maybe I'm at fault for not watching a lot of anime, right? I don't know, but
I would say
do
no,
I?
because, like,
But that's the thing, though. Do I need do I really need to watch every anime ever to understand what kind of jokes are you telling?
mm, I would say no, right? Like, that shouldn't be the case, right? But at the same time, I would also say that it's fine if you wish to make something like that, right? That requires this kind of, a lot of familiarity with this thing, right? I
Mm-hmm.
would say it's fine to make something like that. It just wasn't made for you at that point, right?
Yeah, and again, I state again, there's a good chance that I'm just not the target audience, and I am just not, I just don't get it,
Hmm.
and I fully acknowledge that the problem is probably me, not the show. But at the same time, there's also a point where I'm saying, no, you can't tell me that this is good when it like because I feel like some of those things that I bring up people would bring them up as flaws in other shows,
No,
right?
that's
And I
completely
have
fair.
brought them up as flaws in other shows.
I think
So,
people have brought them up as flaws for this show too, here or there as well. It's like, you're not wrong, right? I don't
mhm,
disagree with you.
yeah. Because again, when I'm seeing some of the parts of the feedback it got, again, if people love this show, go them by all means. But I'm also saying, what is different about this show than other stuff with similar problems that people will call out there but not here? Like, maybe there's something that spoke to them about this
I
one. Yeah,
think it
because like
I
you
think
said,
a
like
lot of it has to
honestly,
do with that episode 3 discussion, and then just kind of
yeah.
the later episodes and how it handles Ray and Claire's relationship from how it started, right?
I
I
get
think a
because that's the
lot of
other
it has to,
thing
because I'll
for a
admit
show that's
that
called.
was a lot of why I got really invested in it, was because of that
So you
discussion
know
in
what?
episode 3,
That's
and that
actually a
was
discussion, a
unexpected.
question I want to bring up because I feel like for a show that's called "I'm in Love with the Villainess," the romance with the actual villainess didn't feel all that well developed, in my opinion.
Welcome to Yuri Anime, where it's all about the relationship between these two girls that's never actually going to happen because we're never going to show you anything.
Well, then I'm sorry, that's a problem. I can tell you,
Listen,
great, this is
the
part of the
the
genre.
problem
I'm going to forgive it now.
it's not
If the main romance
it's
the
not a
show
part
is
of the
named after,
genre. It's just this is an anime problem where they just like anime again, baby steps. We're getting there. They're showing more stuff. But LGBTQ relationships in anime is very much kind of a yeah, this don't happen. We don't do this because reasons. Some of it being homophobia, some of it being, bigotry, some of it just being the anime industry is really fucking slow to change, like extremely slow.
but at the same time, we brought up Blooming to You, and if people want to go
Even Bloom
listen
Into
to
You,
that
though,
podcast,
has that problem where
yeah,
it
it
doesn't
does.
show a
But at the
lot.
same time, but you see, but here's the thing: in Blooming to You, as much as the stuff was complicated there, and as much as that the relationship wasn't all that healthy, and which was the point for the record,
Yes, yeah.
it at least felt like there was some sort of progression with these two. There was some sort of
Also,
change, and they would talk about it, and they would bring up, you know, real issues and
I
real
want to,
thoughts that a couple would have. And this one just doesn't do it. It's just, ha, ha, I'm so in love with you. I hate you so much. Leave me alone.
but I also want to bring up, right? Talking about Bloom Into You, it never got a season two, even though it could have.
And apparently, this one isn't either, from what I've heard.
It might, but it probably won't because it just
Because they teased it, though. They teased that there's something bigger to come,
there is.
but
There's more stuff going on, but more than likely, this show won't get a second season. Even if it did really well, it probably won't get a second season because that's kind of the issue. Shows like these are seen as one-offs
I know
that
that's not. I know it's not that studio, but Studio Trigger.
Studio Trigger, at the very least, like they're very upfront where if we do something, we're doing one season. More often than not, that one season is finished. If you want more, tough shit. We do one. That's it. We move on now. At least for them, like you know what you're getting, right? You know you're gonna get one season, and if you don't want it, and if you don't want that, walk away now, right? Don't get
Mhm.
invested. Basically, is what you know with Studio Trigger. But
Yes.
for like, I'm gonna say like for Yuri anime for stuff like this, right? I think a lot of it's seen as a hey, we're doing this as basically practice or experience or just to kind of get something out the door. We're not coming back to this. You're not going to get any more of this because we just don't care about it a lot of the times.
Which, if this is the case with this, then why the fuck is a sequel? But what do I know?
Because I think we are moving past that point because Bloom Into You was, it came out at that point. That's why Bloom Into You never got a second season, even though, if I'm not mistaken, by the time, by the time the anime came out, I want to say like the manga or whatever it was pretty much done. So they could have easily have finished it and they just never
Yeah.
did.
And I think we did talk about it that the season two would really help the
Oh yeah,
show
would
to really bring
absolutely
everything.
helped it. It definitely needed the season two to just tie things
Which
together with that
now
nice
I'm
little bow.
wondering, how does the I'm in love with the Villainess manga end, if it did end? Because
I don't think it's
does
ended yet, if I'm not mistaken.
because the one thing that I'm kind of curious about, and I think I've heard that the manga deals with this a bit more, but and the anime doesn't. But Ray is like a real life monotony and burnout is a factor in the plot in the manga, and like I kind of want to see what is this girl in real life, like what is going to happen when she has to exit the game and go back, if it's even a problem. Like, does she have people
No,
looking
no,
for her? Does she, like,
it's
I want to
she's
know
dead.
this kind of stuff. Hmm?
Real life Ray is dead. Though normally that's the way this works.
The fuck?
Yeah, she died. That's why she's here. She died. That's normally the way this works. Unless they're doing something wild here, which they could be, but normally the
Well,
way it
in
works,
this case,
there's a reason why Truck Coon is a meme in Isekai HC because Truck Coon or Bus Coon usually, someone gets ran over with a vehicle and that's how they got Isekai. That's normally how it works. Someone got hit by a truck and died, and now they're in Isekai land.
how can the country that gave us Final Fantasy VII give us this too? By the way, can you, if you can tell, I'm playing the Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, and it's really great so far. But
I've heard many good things. We could have been talking about that, but no. We talk about this
but
instead.
please, but
No,
okay.
never. I won't let you talk about something good here.
Well, tough shit. We've been talking about good stuff for quite a while.
9 Realms.
Well, that's the exception now, is it?
No, but
You know, actually, that before we started recording, my lovely fiance actually said, please ask Wolf to make you watch good things in the future.
listen, when it finishes airing completely, we'll go talk about Freerun. I'm sure you'll enjoy Freerun. There's no way you could hate Freerun. Freerun's really good.
All right. And actually, there's an anime the fiance introduced me to, which I'm waiting for to finish so that we can talk about it.
We should mention the name. Get people. What's the
Dungeon
name?
Meshi.
Yes, that one will also be quite good to talk about as well.
Because so far I'm really loving that, and also you know because for the record, like Dungeon Meshi, Spy Family, fiance also got me into like a Full Metal Panic for Mofu, which is really funny, and I like there are good stuff out there. This is just not.
I mean,
cutting it for me. I'm
we
sorry.
should mention, right, like Violet Evergarden. Probably Violet Evergarden. Probably one of my personal favorite
we
shows
covered that
ever.
Yeah,
right?
we covered that, and
Yes,
like,
we have covered
damn,
that.
I still have mental scars.
Like, it's probably one of my personal favorite shows ever. Violet Evergarden is. Again, like,
I'm not sure if I'll go that far, but like, damn, like, talk about a show that's like
it's
heavy on
high
the
up the
emotions
list
and it
for me
hits.
personally. I
Yeah, no, it's great. It's definitely a great one.
So, like, anime absolutely has some bangers. Like, there's some good stuff out there you can find. Is this one of those bangers? No, and I would never have told you that it was. I personally enjoyed it, and I just wanted to bring it up because I thought, you know what? I liked this, and I liked the few little things that it does that really made me go, whoa, actually, I didn't expect that from this show. And I think that might be something too. You had a lot of people telling you like, oh, this show's amazing. You should watch this. This is really good, and hyping it up. I had none of that. I just walked into this one having a feeling that this is probably not going to be an amazing show. This is probably going to be another one of those kind of meh animes you watch. You might have a few moments of, haha, that was funny. Haha, that was good. And then you move on. And then it surprised me.
I think maybe there's a good chance that maybe there's a good chance that like the name gave me a bit more of expectation, and I'm kind of disappointed because of that. But hey, it obviously was a lot of people's cup of tea. So if you enjoyed it, good for you. I stated my reasons. I apologize.
No, and that's fair. And that's completely fair. I think there's good stuff in it. Even you said there's good stuff in it. There just wasn't enough to offset the bad, which is completely fair. I completely get that.
So, anything else to say?
No, I don't think so. Like, go watch it if you're interested, and if you're not, completely fair. Don't.
I will say though, if you need like one final tip for me, just watch the Owl House instead. But otherwise, again, I said it before. I'll say it again. No, it's not. Shut up. You said it. It's good. You know it's good.
But it never got finished.
It was just because they put it a bump in the road doesn't mean it was never finished.
But no fair.
Anyway,
go watch it.
The one thing I will say, because I said it before we got to spoilers, but if the first episode didn't grab you, then there's no reason to keep going with this. But if the first episode makes you think I can watch 11 more episodes of this, then you know what? Go ahead and enjoy it. I am not going to stop you.
I would at least recommend. I think it's always worth experiencing some things.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Go check out. At the very least, if the show doesn't, if you watch the first episode and you're like, not for me, go check out episode 3. There's plenty of clips that you can find of it. That conversation that they have in episode 3, and how candid it is, and how they do it. it's probably one of the best things about this show. That alone, right?
Mhm.
I think there's other good stuff, but I think that alone is probably one of the best things about this show and something I think is definitely worth experiencing because there's a lot you can learn from it in how to write a conversation like that, in my opinion, right?
Mhm. Well, I guess this is all for this episode of the Outcast. We hope you enjoyed. What are your thoughts about I Fell in Love with the Villainess? Do you enjoy it a lot? Were you disappointed by it? You can tell us all about it in the comment section below on our Twitter, which is Berkcast with a capital B, capital C, and on Tumblr, which is Berkcast Team. So until whatever it is next time, I was HC.
It was Wolf.
And we will see you all in the next episode. Take care.
Bye bye.